Ladies and gentlemen, this is UX and this is Unbiased History, Byzantium 4, the Great Byzantine Sassanid War by the channel Dovehati. Yeah, he uploaded this a day or two ago, I guess. Yeah, I couldn't upload it yesterday because I was out of town. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. Always look out for, Dovehati's video. They're always, let's just say, fun in a way that it might be a misinformation here and there. Biased here and there, obviously, but still fun, and weirdly you can learn a thing or two from this. So apparently there you go. So yeah, let's watch this one. Remember, if you like my reaction, like, subscribe, check out the reaction, there's a link in the description, check out the cards of place, check out the end cards, and yeah, let's watch it. This video is a work of parody, no shit.
To refuse to go, to rage against the dying of the light. Such was the reality true Romans of the era lived by, among them especially the Heraclii. Through great skill and effort on the battlefield under Maurus, Heraclius the Elder solidified his family's patrician status, and thus was able to give his children, Theodora, Maria, and Heraclius the education necessary to preserve it. They would learn how to read and write, math.
Oh yeah, the Heraclius is the one who's gonna rise up, right? He said that in the previous video. This age is going to be Heraclius' age or whatever.
And religion, Greek and Roman history. Even as they grew up in the mountainous eastern imperial lands, Heraclius in particular would take a great liking to the heroes of old. Their amazing deeds, their defiance against the odds, their sacrifices for defending civilization, God, and those they were sworn to protect. To have strength, virtue, and faith, these were the lessons the Roman youth learned from them. Staring to the hilly landscapes of his homeland, he wondered, like all have before, just what lessons his life would be remembered for. The day Heraclius got the news from the east, he knew what its repercussions would be. Maurus, one of Eastern Rome's greatest emperors, had been usurped and murdered by its single worst one, the usurper Phocas. Patrician or pleb, friend or ally, all agreed Phocas was an incompetent...
I don't know if it's the way Dovehati says the name or whatever, but every time there's some kind of a, asshole emperor like that, their name is always like that, Phocas and just weird shit like that.
Cruel, ugly as all hell, dumb tyrant. He didn't know anything about administration and refused to learn it, killed and purged everyone he was slightly suspicious of, and when Germanus and Constantine plotted to use the greens and the blues to overthrow him, he found out and imprisoned them both. When Khosrau II began devouring the souls of Romans in the east, to pretend he cared, he sent his nephew Domentiolus to lead the eastern armies. And yes, he got all of his legions destroyed by Khosrau, who would then siege and take Dara, destroying the walls Anastasius built to ensure it never resisted chaos again. But Khosrau didn't personally lead his hordes. No, to destroy civilization and Christianity, he conjured his worst minions to do it for him. The four horsemen of the apocalypse. Razad, ordered to defend Inner Persia. Sharaplakan, ordered to support the other demons. Shahin, tasked with killing as many Romans as he could. And Sharvaras, tasked with destroying all vestiges of...
Yeah, see, you can feel Dovehati's disdain right there, right? Every time he talks about these people. Look at it, this guy doesn't even have a face. It's just fire and ice.
Christianity. Khosrau II had his horsemen invade both Armenia and Mesopotamia simultaneously. Shahin then defeated Domentiolus at Theodosiopolis, taking most of Armenia, and Sharvaras began sieging many Mesopotamian cities. These losses showed how shit Phocas was at, well, everything. So when Germanus and Constantine tried again to overthrow him, he unleashed his full cruelty. He killed all conspirators and imprisoned Germanus, Constantina, and all of her daughters, torturing every single one of them in the most agonizing way possible, especially Constantina, doing unspeakable things to her, and only after days of endless pain, he ordered them to be murdered. Phocas's degenerate behavior went even further, raping the wives of famous popular patricians he envied, such as Photius, and whenever someone in the crowd joked about his regime, he ordered the entire crowd to be massacred. But it's only so far cruelty can get you, which is why he had used the famous Priscus to bolster his regime.
Yeah, I was about to say that, like, the way he's doing this shit, like, okay, I'll rape anybody I like, I'm gonna kill anybody I want, that's gonna end badly, right? Doesn't matter how much of a king and emperor you are. You can't just do that shit. People will revolt if they see you, acting like that.
Despite marrying him to his daughter himself, when the Blues and Greens carried pictures of Priscus and his daughter alongside that of Phocas, he burst in outrage and accused Priscus of trying to outshine him, but couldn't just kill him. Yet. Proving he never cared, he just let Shahin take Theodosiopolis and Chavaras all of Roman Mesopotamia. And when the plague returned, killing many, he did nothing to address it. Meanwhile, Khosrau II forced a random Roman to pretend being Maurice's dead son, Theodosius, so that he could tell cities to surrender to the Sassanids, saying they were only there to help him against Phocas, taking city after city and terrorizing them. With no forts or armies to stop them, Khosrau ordered Shahin to show the Romans what really awaited them. Shahin thus invaded Anatolia, ransacking his way through Cappadocia, defeating another of Phocas's generals, sacking the local city of Caesarea, and just going further and further.
Constant can't see you this time. Yeah, seriously, I was about to say that. Like, look at this shit. How far they've fallen, right? The, remnants of Roman Empire, Byzantine Empire, even then. Look at that. Khosrau is basically, Sassanids are just kicking that ass. Obviously, Khosrau is, I guess, more powerful than the previous kings of the Sassanids or whatever. And all this, the people he has is really powerful. But damn, look at that. I guess it's gonna end badly for the Byzantines here.
Than any Eastern demon had gone before. Leaving a trail of Roman blood, Shahin had reached Chalcedon, right across Constantinople, terrorizing its populace and making prisoners of those few he didn't kill, as a taste of what's to come. Not that Phocas cared, he was too busy getting exploited by the Pope, ironically enough, and after the Patriarch of Constantinople died, he just led the new successor to be approved, Patriarch Sergius, and returned to the raping. With the only thriving part of the empire being Africa, where Heraclius and his siblings, plus his cousin, Nicetas, had grown into strong, virtuous, pious Romans. Growing to a skilled leader and general, Heraclius was engaged with a rich landowner's daughter, and was set for a comfortable life in obscurity. But that's not the path he would choose. As more and more letters from Priscus came detailing the horrors taking place in the east, Heraclius and his father just couldn't take it anymore. The crimes against Maurice and his family, the negligence over Rome and its people, and the overwhelming threat of the Sassanids had to be avenged, ended, and destroyed for good. As appointed exarch by the last rightful Roman emperor, Maurice, a governorship derived from the old proconsular authority, Heraclius the Elder reminded all that him and his son, as effective consuls, were the last legitimate authorities left in the empire, thus falling to them to avenge the late emperor's life. In open rebellion against Phocas, Heraclius sent Nicetas to sail to Egypt, where with local support he took Alexandria and most of Egypt, cutting the grain supply.
Yeah, I guess he's gonna have support left and right, obviously, because people clearly hate Phocas the way he's going on. I mean, Phocas didn't make, any hard for the, I forgot even his name, Heraclius. Yeah. Phocas didn't even, made anything hard for Heraclius. He can just walk into any place like Egypt and people will support him because they know Phocas is just fucked up.
To Phocas's regime. Instead of abdicating or, defending what was left of the Roman East, Phocas sent the entire Syrian army to go fight Heraclius' forces. For the crime of not wanting to be ruled by a cruel retard, Phocas' generals slaughtered an entire Egyptian city and attacked Alexandria twice, failing twice and retreating to Constantinople. With the empire crumbling, its major cities began falling into their own civil wars over which side to support. The Blues and Greens fought each other, the economy began collapsing, the plague continued to spread, and now the Slavs were invading the Balkans.
You know what? Everybody wonders, is Byzantine Empire the Roman Empire? Yeah, it's a Roman Empire. The way shit is going on, all the squabbling, inner fighting, and all this shit, stabbing everybody in the back, yeah, it's a Roman Empire.
Again. Among the many suffering were the Jews in the empire, having never quite recovered after what a certain sinful emperor did to them. Their long suppressed frustrations.
How does he get away with it? I'm not gonna lie. I've seen this in, the Roman series, even in here. He always depicts Jews and, that music, that weird music that he plays. He always, depicts Jews like that. How does he get away with it? How does YouTube doesn't go like, oh, that's a hate speech or something?
coupled with the blatant Satanism of Monophysites, proved prime targets for the Antichrist, who used his long-range dark spells to incite revolts and internal conflicts through them. The Monophysites and Jews thus began violently revolting against the local cities, killing many Orthodox Romans and professing sympathies with the Sassanids. With Phocas leaving Syria completely defenseless, Sharvaras charged forward and raided nearby Antioch. Nicetus, seeing the mess over Syria-Palestina, he took it over before Sharvaras could. And now the moment to save the capital had arrived. After putting a depiction of its traditional protectress, the Virgin Mary, on his ship, Heraclius rallied the African legions under his command, plus some civilized Moorish allies, and sailed towards destiny. Sailing through the Mediterranean, Heraclius' fleet landed on the Bosphorus, getting welcomed and joined by the locals sick of Phocas' bullshit, getting attacked by the usurper's far larger fleet and defeating them anyway. Much like when Phocas revolted against Maurice, when Heraclius suddenly showed up near the capital, Phocas hadn't had enough time to man the Theodosian walls, leaving him defenseless. Monitoring the situation, Khosrau II couldn't allow the useful idiot to lose, so using the same Eastern satanic magic, he tried to get a hold of Priscus, but fighting it off, all it did was make him really sick, and unable to do anything during these events. With Heraclius' men entering Constantinople, Phocas demanded
I love how he takes certain events and certain sicknesses somebody had and just add like it was an evil magic from Khosrau.
The leaderless excubators to defend him and go kill Heraclius. Phocas was then tied up and carried to Heraclius' ship at the harbor, his regime now fallen. Standing above him, Heraclius then asked Phocas, "Is this how you rule the empire, scum?" And Phocas replied, "Will you rule it better?"
Yeah.
Heraclius then chopped Phocas' cock and balls off for raping Photius' wife, then his right arm for Commentiolus, his left arm for Constantina and her children, his right leg for Germanus, his left leg for Narses, and then his head for the rightful Emperor Maurice and the Roman people. Phocas' dismembered torso was then thrown to the plebs to incinerate, alongside Domitiolus and the others, who were lynched to death by the crowds, with Patriarch Sergius getting along very well with Heraclius. Having saved the empire from its worst emperor, Sergius acclaimed Heraclius as the rightful emperor, and married him to Fabia, now Empress Eudokia, getting the approval of both the Senate and the people of the Romans. And when the increasingly frail Heraclius the Elder got the news of his son,
Senate is still a thing. You want a puppet thing, but still a thing. That's something, right? Say it now.
Success, he finally allowed himself to die of happiness. Now in charge, Heraclius sent Nicetus to take charge in Syria and muster some troops there. However, the remaining army in Anatolia was led by that other Commentiolus, Phocas' brother, who then ordered his legions to march west and kill Heraclius, getting killed himself by his officers, and replaced with the still recovering Priscus. Heraclius then told Khosrau II.
Everybody hates Phocas, right? Everybody hates Phocas and everyone around him, obviously. Alright, what was I saying? Yeah. Everybody hated Phocas, right? Phocas and all his men, just because how terrible they were. How they were raping people left and right. So for Heraclius, it wasn't even a challenge, right? Getting support here and there. And wherever there's opposition, the people there just killed whoever guy was in charge because they know Phocas sucked. Phocas and all his men. So Heraclius didn't even have any challenge because of that. Because Phocas was just horrible all around.
That Phocas had been killed, and so any pretext of vengeance was now void, but all it did was allow him to drop the act and just engage in a full-on war of conquest and destruction. While Priscus and Nicetus were still organizing Phocas' mess, Shahin invaded Anatolia again and took Caesarea, and Sharvaras got to Antioch before Nicetus and laid siege to it, and with the city already in anarchy and ruins, he took it with ease. Inside, Sharvaras destroyed as much as he could, massacring the Roman population and taking many as slaves to the east, where their souls would be devoured, all to ensure the great city would never recover. Nicetus then marched south to save it, but Sharvaras met him in battle, and both sides suffered catastrophic casualties. And even though he was forced to retreat, the cities could not be retaken. At the same time, Priscus had encircled Shahin in Caesarea during the winter, but due to Khosrau's powerful dark magic over him, Shahin broke his way out and returned to the east. Meanwhile, Heraclius...
Okay, seriously, dark magic all that aside, how did he run away if, his flank was just compromised like that? He was trapped, how did he run away? Damn, that's effed up. Every time there's something that can't make sense or it's just something weird, it's just like, it was dark magic.
Heraclius was busy re-establishing the bureaucracy and showing his piety to God in many ways, among them having 2 children in 2 years, Epiphania and Heraclius Constantine. As he held dinners and meetings with Sergius, he was constantly approached by his niece, Maria's daughter, Martina, who deeply loved him, and he in turn openly ignored her and her sinful incestuous moves. After hearing of Priscus's failure, he could feel something was wrong, and recalled him to become his son's godfather during his baptism. And during the ceremony, Priscus finally succumbed to Khosrau, and began insulting Heraclius on the spot. Seeing he was bewitched, Heraclius struck him with a book, had him tonsured on the spot, and had him sent to a monastery to have the evil cleansed from his system. But Khosrau's curse was too strong, and Priscus died of old age before it could be done. And with his loss, Heraclius rescued Philippicus from his monastery exile to replace him. But Philippicus alone...
Okay, really? So they actually sent him into the, in front of all the priests and things because they thought that Khosrau had some kind of a magic or him. I thought that was just Dovaheti's thing. He was just saying that. Heraclius actually sent him to the priest and things. Damn.
Wouldn't suffice. The empire needed all generals it could get. And so, for the first time since Theodosius I, as the Eastern Emperor, Heraclius took it to lead his legions himself. Heraclius then took command of the Anatolian legions, sent Philippicus to distract Shahin, and ordered Nicetus to attack Sharvaras with him. Heraclius confronted Sharvaras first, and both sides again suffered massive casualties, with Sharvaras retreating to Antioch, and Nicetus having similar results in the south. But in the north, as Shahin raided Anatolia, Philippicus countered this by raiding Sassanid Armenia.
Alright, usually it goes in a way like, these Chad emperors of the Byzantine Empire, Roman Empire, whatever. They are so powerful that with even the fewer numbers, they usually crush the opposition. In here, they are suffering the same losses as the Sassanids, right? So I guess this is pretty different. Like, Khosrau was really badass around this time. Like, he wasn't just somebody who just got his ass kicked or something. He was really formidable at the time.
Forcing him to hunt him down to stop it, losing many demons doing so in the mountainous terrain, something Heraclius took great notice of. However, due to the lack of any friendly forts in Syria and the pro-Sassanid agitation, Heraclius and Nicetus had to retreat to Anatolia and Egypt respectively. Sharvaras then seized the chance to take cities like Damascus and marched south, conquering all cities in his path with the help of the Monophysites and Jews. But his main objective was quite obvious. Of all cities in the Levant, Sharvaras headed straight for the birthplace of Christianity, Jerusalem. With his hordes and a sizable volunteer Jewish contingent, Sharvaras took the holy city and installed the bewitched Jews and Monophysites in power. And when the local Orthodox Romans dared resist the occupation, Sharvaras unleashed his full fury. He savagely slaughtered all Romans on the streets, targeting priests and nuns above all, destroyed most buildings in the city, and enslaved whatever few were unlucky enough to survive. After destroying all churches and killing 90,000 Romans, Sharvaras arrived at the Church of the
He just slaughtered 90,000 civilians? What the fuck?
Holy Sepulchre, the church built by Constantine and his mother Saint Helena over the tomb of Jesus Christ. Now at the heart of Christianity, the Sassanids' own variation of pagan satanic worship, Zoroastrianism, stepped forth to the stage. Zoroastrianism preached the existence of two fundamental deities and domains, God's order and Satan's chaos. And for their beloved chaos to triumph, the devils required that which had long since been kept safe within that sacred church. Losing his patience as he got closer to it, Sharvaras tortured and killed all priests and monks who refused to reveal where the location of that ancient relic was, until the weakest among them broke and told him at last. In their adoration of evil, the Zoroastrian Sassanids came to worship fire, destructive, chaotic fire, closer as they ever were now to incinerate it all. The holiest church in the world was thus set ablaze, all remaining tortured survivors burning alive inside. But the true atrocity was what now laid at the hands of pagan barbarian scum.
Alright, this is fucked up. I understand, Doherty biasedly saying things, favoring Byzantine Empire, obviously. But still, the way all this, Khosrow and Sassanids are acting here, killing everybody, burning people alive, leaving no survivor, that's just fucked up, right? I mean, Doherty is not being that biased. I mean, this is actual history. This happened. He killed all those people right there. This is fucked up.
The true cross. Jesus Christ's cross. The half of it Saint Helena had left in Jerusalem. And along with him, he brought the Patriarch of Jerusalem, who he enslaved alongside 37,000 Romans, sending them all with it to Ctesiphon. The destruction of Jerusalem and loss of half of the true cross so weakened Christianity that Khosrau's satanic magic grew to become nearly unstoppable. Wasting no time, Khosrau immediately attacked Eudokia. Giving her such a strong epileptic attack, she died immediately after. During his moment of weakness and sorrow, Heraclius was next in Khosrau's attack, and tried forcing him to renounce Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior. But Heraclius, after a long struggle, refused to give in, and emerged from the attempt as pious as ever. However, to permanently fortify his soul against Eastern satanic magic, he had to permanently immunize himself with some lesser sin in its place, with the one at hand for the widower being incest. Patriarch Sergius quickly understood the dilemma, and married the incestuous couple together, and even though it was better than Anastasius' curse, it would still have its costs. Indeed, for the cost of resisting the Antichrist being the premature death of all children the couple had together, except the third one, a deaf mute, who also died. But great emperors rarely had time for self-pity. With Phocas having left the Balkans defenseless, the Slavs almost completely took over Illyria and most of Greece, trying again to take Thessalonica, failing again, instead resorting to building ships and raiding some Aegean islands. But the Slavs were nothing but the Avars bitches at this point, and while they turned into Priscus's bitches recently, they had partially recovered, invading the empire and resuming control over the Slavs. And it was right then that the Visigoths invaded the remains of reconquered Hispania, never to be retaken, though it didn't work out that well for them. While in Italy, the Lombards were still shit at sieging. There was a revolt in Ravenna near Venice, but it was shortly resolved. All of these crises at hand, but few things were as catastrophic.
Oh shit, every side of the Byzantine Empire is getting taken over. It's like, is this the end? Is this the end of Byzantine Empire? I don't know. Which year is it? I mean, this is just effed up, man.
As the empire's finances by then, with the whole being invaded from all sides simultaneously and all. Heraclius thus cut many salaries in half, fully implemented Maurice's Diocletianic supply reform, and true to the times, minted new silver coins, written on them, Deus adiuta Romanis, may God help the Romans. A sentiment proven when Shahin again invaded Anatolia, but this time he ignored Philippus' counter-invasion of Armenia and just went to sack Ankara, Sardis, and Chalcedon again. Watching the fires from the distance,
okay, just cut out his flank. Send soldier, cut out his flank, and then just trap him. I mean, he did, ran away last time, but come on.
An embassy to go talk with Khosrau, but when they arrived, Khosrau imprisoned them, leaving them to die alone in the desert. For the Antichrist, negotiation was never an option. As for Sharvaras, he continued his way south, invading Egypt itself, and with Monophysite support, took city after city. In response, the Patriarch of Africa dragged all Monophysite priests in the city to sign an act of union to strengthen the resistance, but they just half-assed it. Nicetus took some reinforcements from Africa, but not having enough men to win a battle against Sharvaras' horde, he resorted to garrisoning the cities, but they nevertheless surrendered one after the other to avoid destruction, and soon Alexandria itself was under siege. And they would have resisted were it not for a disgruntled, treacherous pleb, who showed Sharvaras an abandoned waterway that led straight into the city, which he used to infiltrate Alexandria and started killing indiscriminately. Nicetus fled before he could fall, but it didn't change the fact that the Sassanids now had completely taken over Egypt, placed an exclusively Monophysite leadership in power, and cut all grain shipments to the entire empire, which now had been reduced between a scrap of Thrace and the Taurus Mountains. With the fall of Egypt completely assured of victory, Khosrau sent a letter to Heraclius demanding his submission, calling him his vile slave, boasting of the many cities he destroyed and people he killed. But worst of all, he threatened to completely destroy Constantinople and dared mock Jesus Christ for being unable to escape crucifixion, saying Heraclius would equally fail to escape his fate. Words couldn't describe the despair the Romans were under. The east had fallen to the Sassanids, the west to the Slavs and Avars, Italy and Spain to even more barbarians. Most legions were lost, the holy city had been destroyed by heathens, the grain from Egypt cut off, with the economy in shambles, not a...
Okay, if he comes back from this, that would be something, right? I mean, there's a video left, so he might come from this. But yeah, every area is just basically taken over. He has no proper army anymore. He's just lost in every side.
Single copper left on the treasury, and Khosrau preparing for a final assault at Constantinople. And at the face of certain defeat, Heraclius refused this fate and vowed that the Roman Empire would not fall. With the resolve of ancient heroes, Heraclius raised taxes on everyone, took every loan rich patriots could give, put an end to the free food gibbs with the lack of Egyptian grain, and began recruiting every man available for a last-ditch effort to save the world. Heraclius was prepared to do anything to save the Roman Empire, even moving the capital to fucking Carthage of all places. The same care went for the Christian faith, proven when Sergius lended Heraclius the entire wealth of the church to support the war effort. With his blessing, Heraclius and Sergius began melting all golden, silver and copper goods in the church's possession. Candlesticks, ornaments, thrones, artworks, everything to get the wealth necessary for fighting the war. And eventually, they got it. The resources secured, Heraclius went to meditate in a temple across the Bosphorus, intent on devising the best plan to win the war. After listening to much advice, reading about the past campaigns of emperors like Trajan and the Apostate, together with a thorough reading of Maurice's Strategicon, Heraclius came to realize what had to be done. After such enlightened isolation, Heraclius came up with the ultimate, most intricate and thought-through revolutionary strategy to defeat the Sassanids for good. Ignore everything else, personally invade Persia, and fuck it raw. Immediately after, he called upon all remaining legionaries in the empire to Anatolia and formed a single army. His family he left for Sergius to protect, his capital to his Magister Militum, a general named Bonus, to defend, leaving his wife nowhere, with her tagging along with him in his quest for vengeance. With the full support of the church and embarking on this monumental war against satanic heathens, Heraclius would well earn his reputation as the first crusader. Taking command of the tens of thousands of soldiers gathered together, Heraclius followed the Strategicon to the letter and began the campaign with lots of training, and even some mock battles. The plebeian was to be stripped from his men, one by one. He would have nothing but soldiers that lived up to being called Roman legionaries. Constantly Heraclius...
I like how Heraclius, like, if you want to do something right, do it yourself, and he's doing it himself, I guess. Okay, so this is the first crusade, is it? You know, first crusade, second crusade, third crusade, so this is the first one.
Gave speeches to his men, carrying a portrait of Jesus Christ, saying many times, "The Sassanids are fire-worshipping heathens who have destroyed our churches, and God willing, he will lead us to vengeance." But often, after these speeches, Heraclius would be found all alone, drowned in melancholy. And when he was approached and asked what was wrong, he would somberly remind them that this was the last Roman army left in the world. If they lost,
seriously, it's all on the line.
Learning of Heraclius' presence, Sharvaras launched a direct invasion of Anatolia, with Heraclius quickly outmaneuvering him into an advantageous Armenian terrain, with Sharvaras pursuing him. With his hordes approaching, Heraclius told his men to act like retards and threw banquet preparations on the battlefield to appear vulnerable. Sharvaras in turn noticed the ambush and tried to make one of his own, but it was discovered. Heraclius trained the legionnaires, then fell into position and beat the Sassanids in close combat, expelling Sharvaras from Anatolia, with the first Roman victory in a decade. But instead of following that up, he then heard that the Avars planned to attack Constantinople, and to deal with their new Khan, he went there personally to strike a truce. the Khan agreeing to a meeting at Heraclea. And as he prepared the festivities to meet with the Avar Khan, the Avars launched an ambush to kidnap him, but he was alerted in time, tore off his regalia and rode like a madman to Constantinople, with the frustrated Avars killing and enslaving the party performers. Losing their chance, the Avars agreed to being paid off from causing trouble, and with the western front secured, Heraclius prepared to return to his army and resume the campaign that would decide the empire's fate. Resuming command of his legions, Heraclius planned an audacious strike at the heart of evil, first retaking Theodosiopolis from Shahin and then most of Armenia, destroying a
Yeah, I like how he asked to, first of all, make sure the Western Front is stable so I can focus on the Sassanid in the East because they are the biggest enemies here. Because you can't fight wars on all fronts. It doesn't matter how great you are. So, I like how he's going to battle himself. And he's winning actually for the first time because Sassanid's been kicking their asses all the time. So he might pull it off, I guess.
A local Sassanid sand castle and directly invading Persia, heading straight to the cursed desert fortress of Ganzak. Defending it was none other than Khosrau. But when Heraclius arrived before the city, not only did his scouts beat the Sassanid scouts, but he managed to order an attack that killed many of Khosrau's bodyguards, making him flee before he could be captured, leading to the dispersal and destruction of his horde. Entering Ganzak, Heraclius confirmed why Khosrau had bothered to defend it himself, for it housed the unholiest Zoroastrian fire temple in his dark domains, the satanic pagan shrine of Adur Gushnasp. Entering this entropy-worshipping hellhole, Heraclius could feel the primordial evil that birthed Ardashir and his successors in the air around him. The chaos it festered, manifesting the most atrocious thoughts, acts, and feelings mortal minds have ever dared entertain. Channeling this evil to Heraclius' disgust, now being a demonic statue of Khosrau II, depicting him as an abhorrent deity that would one day rule the entire universe as its dark.
Man, Towhead is so good that I don't know why I'm imagining all these places just like he's placing it like it's some kind of, I don't know, the way he's using this Skyrim, animation of, what was that place? I don't know, the DLC thing. So I'm imagining it like that, hell type looking place with all these evil people. It's all dark. I don't know why I'm imagining like that. I know Towhead is just making this, amping this up as, they were evil and showing it an evil way. But I'm imagining it just like that.
Dark Lord, but no more. The evil that sustained the Sassanid tyrants gone with the complete destruction of the shrine, with Heraclius also destroying the birthplace of the demon Zarathustra to completely avenge Jerusalem. Purposefully invading through the eastern mountains, Heraclius rendered the Sassanid numerical and cavalry advantage null and void, even more so after recruiting some Christian mercenaries from the Sassanid-dominated Caucasian lands. Incredible how well this works when you're immune from Eastern magic. Martina would keep giving birth to ill-fated products of incest, but that wasn't the only of Heraclius' pains. Indescribably furious, Khosrau ordered all horsemen to attack Heraclius at the same time, keeping only Razad back to protect himself. With Sharaplakan advancing from northern Persia, Shahin from lower Armenia, and Shavaraz catching up in the west, Heraclius chose to face the closest one first. But not until sending some prisoners fed false information to Shavaraz about his location, buying him a lot of time. After evading him north to Lake Sevan, Heraclius gave another great holy speech and crushed Sharaplakan's army, sending him fleeing away to the south. Only a couple of days later, Shahin arrived to link up with Sharaplakan. Too late, that is, getting jumped on by the legions and getting utterly routed, fleeing away with his remaining horde. Heraclius then
look at that, in the entire Byzantine Empire, Heraclius is the only Chad guy, right? Because before that, it was either even battle or, Byzantians were losing. Whenever they go to fight, both sides lose a massive amount of number. Now Heraclius with his only army left, basically, only Roman army left, is crossing them left and right.
Marched to Armenia, where his homesick Caucasian mercenaries left him, which Shahin saw as a chance to attack again, and getting decimated this time. Shahin and what remained of his horde linked up with Shavaraz, who now found Heraclius' true location. Always maneuvering through the mountains, Shavaraz sent 6,000 Sassanids to block Heraclius' paths through them, camping nearby Lake Van, which Heraclius' scouts soon informed him of. And as Maurice put it in the Strategicon, the Sassanid camps are a chaotic, disorganized mess, very vulnerable to night attacks. And so, as Shavras bathed in the tears of tortured innocents nearby his chaos harem and family, he heard that the Romans were suddenly attacking his camp. Caught completely by surprise, Shavras ran away naked into the mountains.
How does he do that? How does Dough Hattie do that? All the dialogues. I mean, look at that. This is ridiculous. Oh, wait a minute. I skipped it way too much. See, there you go. All these dialogues. Do you think eating souls would make them go to our tits? that's the general conversation happening in the background. How does he come up with this shit?
Family, he heard that the Romans were suddenly attacking his camp. Caught completely by surprise, Shavras ran away naked into the mountains, leaving his family, men, and chaos harem to be captured by the Romans. After thoroughly humiliating the Sassanids, Heraclius marched west to resupply in the empire. But after regrouping with his horde, Shavras had all passages and rivers blocked, destroying all bridges in the region, except one, a very obvious bait. But it would have to do. So when Heraclius' army neared that bridge and Shavras ambushed them, Heraclius charged with his cavalry head-on, taking several arrows leading the charge, but never once stopping, carving a bloody path to the bridge. Getting so far ahead, his executors and Bucellari had to catch up with him, at which the frustrated Shavras commented to a captured Roman, "Look at your emperor. He fears those arrows no more than with an anvil." However, guarding the bridge was a freakishly huge Sassanid soldier, which, at his sight, Heraclius cut down with a single strike, clearing the way out for his men. The legions then broke through the dispersed Sassanids, making for the bridge and returning to the empire, even recapturing Amida and Martiopolis on the way. Shavras would keep harassing them on the way, but it didn't stop Heraclius and his men from getting to Caesarea. The blow Heraclius had dealt the Sassanids was unfathomable. After beating all armies and horsemen that were thrown in his way, and most of all destroying Khosrau's main source of satanic power, it was now a matter of time of which side would fall first.
Seriously, man. I mean, Sassanids basically kicked everyone's ass. Byzantine Empire, they were just, conquering left and right. Phocas was an idiot, obviously, so that's how it all started. Even with the Heraclius becoming emperor, it was still becoming, it was a big trouble. Sassanid was still winning. Heraclius' army was still losing left and right. But barbarian was taking places in the west and everywhere, in African places. So, basically Byzantine Empire was, it felt like it was about to be done, right? They had no real money, real army left. Sassanids were way too powerful. Heraclius just, mustered all the money he can from the church and things. He took the army that he could find and just, one last, attempt, because this all was in, basically. This was the last army. And he kicked Sassanid's ass left and right. Nobody was left, using clever tactics here and there, using ambush and things. So this was awesome, right? After Sassanid doing all this thing, first time any Sassanid being this level of successful, because in the past, no Sassanid were this level of successful against Byzantium, Roman Empire, whatever. But this time they were, and just, Heraclius just came back and kicked their asses, and, all the things that Sassanids achieved was for nothing now.
Khosrau would then give most remaining hordes to Shavras, conjured a whole new horde from hell for Shahin with his waning powers, and sent a formal letter to the Avar Khan, together forming a plot to destroy Constantinople. When Heraclius was informed, as much as it pained him to say it, he could not afford to retreat and give Anatolia to the Sassanids. To do so would be to lose the war. Constantinople would be left to defend itself.
Damn.
Sending some reinforcements to the city, now guarded by a few thousand legionnaires, it would all now rest on Sergius and Bonus to defend it. Not really, its Theodosian walls are bust. Speaking of which, it was now being besieged in the south by Shavras.
Yeah, okay, I'm pretty sure that Constantinople is not going to be sieged, because it wasn't sieged in the, 13th century or something. So I'm pretty sure Sassanids are not going to, basically take over the city.
Now raiding Chalcedon, and in the north by the Avar Khan and his tens of thousands of Avars, Slavs, Bulgars, Gepids, slaves, vassals, bitches, whatever. The Romans being outnumbered over 100 to 1. On the Avar front, they set up siege towers and catapults, resisting a Bucellari raid from the gates, and when asking Bonus to surrender the city, the Avar Khan received the proper Roman response. The siege started with the Avars throwing their Slavs and Bulgars at the walls, with the Sassanids sending ships with troops whenever the Romans were distracted, but the ships were sunk by the Roman navy, and the Slavs repelled from the first wall. Later, as they continually bombarded the walls, the Avars unleashed 12 siege towers to breach in, but they were carried by mules, and as Belisarius mathematically proved, dead mules don't carry. Despite these losses, the Avars just kept going and sent their full
Yeah, there's science behind that, by the way. Dead mules don't carry, yeah.
force on the first wall. But the thing about sieging the Theodosian walls was that, even if you managed to have some barbarians cross the moat and jump the first wall, big if that one, of the few that would arrive on the other side alive, they would find a bigger, thicker wall before them, filled with archers shooting them down. And even if through some miracle a barbarian or another managed to cross beyond it, they would find an even bigger, thicker wall before them, with gigantic watchtowers and even more archers on them. Now do you see what Constantine and Anthemius were on about? At the face of repeated losses, the Avar...
Yeah, that's awesome, right? It's like some kind of a challenge thing, right? That one of the TV shows there, some great challenge. It's a great challenge to, siege Constantinople. One wall, oh look at the Vienna, oh shit, there's another one. Somehow one guy managed, oh shit, there's even bigger one. People have arrows there.
Khan agreed to talk with some Roman diplomats. The trick being he was already talking with the Sassanids. In short, after calling Heraclius a coward of all things repeatedly, he told the Romans to all cowardly abandon Constantinople and cross to Chalcedon across the sea, where he assured, pinky promised that Sharvaras definitely wouldn't just kill all of them on the spot and devour the corpses, further adding that you cannot escape neither the Avars nor the Sassanids, lest you soar into the air like birds or dive into the waves like fish. Or keep killing barbarians like Romans. For no amount of Avar threats could face the morale Patriarch Sergius had built up among the troops. Why, with him parading a depiction of the Virgin Mary on the walls 24/7 and going on repeated theological rants against the pagan barbarians. And indeed, every so often at night, when the Avar Khan and his soldiers would look at the Theodosian walls, they would see a strange woman all by herself and get deeply disturbed. To finally...
Wait a minute, is that true or is he just adding that? Because if that's true, damn, that's a psychological warfare right there. It's getting to them. I love that guys basically just have virgin, preaching about Virgin Mary all the time, amping all the people up. That's really important in war, man.
To breach the city, the Avar Khan coordinated with Sharvaras to use the Slavs' boats to ferry the Sassanids to the weaker harbor walls and enter the city while they were distracted with another massive frontal assault. But Bonus caught some of the Sassanid envoys on their way back, learning everything about the plan, including that the Slavs would be waiting for fire signals of where to land. So Bonus then lit up some fires near the Golden Horn, let the Slavs land, and killed all of them. Out of spite, if anything, the Avar Khan just kept ordering suicidal attacks at the walls. But after such massive casualties began piling up, seeing Slavs and Bulgars die by the scores just kinda lost its fun. And finally he ordered a full retreat. As they walked away from the city, Fyodor approached the Khan to officialize their defeat and ensure peace. But the Avar Khan had none of it, and assured Fyodor that he would return. He never returned. Same for Sharvaras, who lifted his own side of the siege and retreated east, proving once again the genius of Saint Constantine. Awaiting updates from the west, once he heard the siege was repelled, Heraclius thanked the Virgin Mary, put Fyodor in charge of the army, and took a small detachment with him to the Caucasus, and
yeah, so obviously I knew that the Constantinople is not going to be sieged around this point, because only time Constantinople was sieged was around in 13th or 14th century, right? So obviously Sassanids were not going to do that. But that's after, right? Scaling those walls are really impossible. Saint Constantine basically, made it in a way that he knew, because he rose up around the time where people was constantly sieging these cities. And he knew he needed to do that shit. So he just made it in a way that nobody can siege it. It was extremely hard, right? It's one of the hardest city ever to siege in the past, I guess. So, yeah. Alright people, I guess this is it for now. I guess it's 43 minutes plus already. And I have to go, so I'm gonna, react second part, I guess, later today or maybe tomorrow. But damn, this was something, right? Heracles, I guess, after Aurelian, this is the only guy I can think of who, basically changed the tide of war like this. Because Byzantium was done basically. It was getting invaded left and right, nothing was left, and Heraclius didn't have any money or real army left, and yet he still mustered it up. While Sassanids were at the power position where they were actually asking him to give up. like give up, surrender. That's what the position was. Like Sassanid were asking Byzantians to basically give up. That's how much territories Byzantium lost. But still, Heraclius kicked their ass. If that is a Roman Empire, come on, Byzantium is a Roman Empire. With all the backstabbing, all the shit that happens in the background, basically they're looking up to Romans as their ancestors, and the way this Chad people like Heraclius are rising up, this is a Roman Empire. But yeah, alright people, if you like my reaction, don't like and subscribe so I know which type of videos to react to more. Check out the reaction I did, there's a link in the description. Check out the cause of plays, check out the cards, and I'll see you next time.